JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, September 23rd, 3:39 is fine afternoon. Sorry, having some issues here. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from their S&P down about a little over 0.6%. The great correction, the big crash started today. I'm just being a little sarcastic here. Market's pulling back. Always take things with a little grain of salt, right? I'm not saying this can't be the start of something or what have you, but I mean we've been on such an epic run, even if it's just from the start of September. SPY was down in 630s, right? So I was saying it this morning, right? I was looking at the monthly gain for September. It was 3.8%, somewhere in there. So even if we close the month down up 2%, and that would imply maybe another 1% or so to the downside, I mean, still looks good on a monthly basis, right? So upper Bollinger Band 667 and change. Got up, trading around 666 pretty much all the way into the afternoon. And then Fed Chair Powell, he had that luncheon where there was a moderated conversation. I don't know if that's much to what the sell-off is. I mean, he's pretty much what J Rock was saying before. It's almost like he's a lame duck now, right? And so the headlines, you go to Market Watch and, Powell talking about weakness in the job market. It's like, okay, what planet you been on? That's what he said about Jackson Hole. So they just need to back up the move in the markets with some kind of rationalization, some headlines, some comments. To me, it's just somewhat profit taking. Look today, yields are lower, so it's not the yield story today. If you thought maybe okay, if yields were spiking again for the fourth consecutive day, I would say okay, maybe there's some issues here. The VIX is at 17 here, up 5%. We'll see what tomorrow brings, right? This could be just a little profit taking, some greed. You see also some headlines, right? AI froth. AI froth was there in December and in January when Nvidia was all time highs and all these names were in tears. Broadcom was at $300, and oh my gosh, at some point this all comes to a head, and then we do have some kind of pullback. I don't know if it's going to be in October, maybe next week, could be tomorrow. But I'm still cautiously optimistic. I don't know that the SPY is going to go to 680 in the coming weeks. Can't rule that out. But to me, the chop consolidation, small caps rallying, that would be the ideal scenario that kind of has been happening for the last week or so. All right, so that's kind of overall markets. And today was one of those days, it's frustrating because when the market's lower, if you're in the call positions, pending any other things that are going against the trend, a lot of names are down, but there's actually a decent amount on my watch list solidly in the green. Quick, I'll go individual names. The first TTD, right? So got those TTD calls, the trade desk late in the afternoon yesterday for a bounce. And you look at the chart and I'm like, you can make the case this is going over $50 in the coming days. The thing is the time factor, right? So I went and got the weekly strikes. And then this morning, I figured after its green closed yesterday, it was looking good in the pre-market. I figured it was going to be a gap and go. And it fizzled, right? All the way up to 46.20, then back down to 46. My calls, I don't want to, as we get closer to Wednesday, the premium is just going to get destroyed, right? And then, I won't have a chance to salvage the position. So I do what I don't normally do, and I salvage my lotto calls. And then sure enough, what does TTD do? Matter of 30 minutes later, goes on a run all the way into the 47s. At the time, my calls are up over 50%. And then market shopping around here, it's back under 47. And now those 50 strikes are, in the red still for the day, but higher than where I closed them out. So tough, right? And then you got to hold on and worry if we have another continuation, the market pullback tomorrow, where does TTD trade? So I'll continue to look for opportunities to trade that one for upside. I mean, it's up 1% today, 1.5%, and the out of money calls all red. So not the recipe for making profit. We need some continuation. So maybe tomorrow's the day. Certainly we'll keep my eye on that for a bounce because at some point I think it goes on a couple day rally, 6% one day, 5% the next day, and the call is going to be up substantial. So that's TTD. SERV, right? I mean, SERV Robotics, crazy stuff here. And, I was talking about the volume this morning, the gap in the pre-market, how it's trading pre-market. The activity in pre-market is a heck of a lot more than it used to be just even a month ago. And then sure enough, all the way up to 15 in the morning, and then boom, under 13 by 1:30. And it's like one of those names. It's got a huge short interest. It's kind of, I wouldn't call it pre-revenue, but the company is doing 1 point something million in revenues this year. So by negligible revenue, I guess you would call it story. You just got to think at some point these bear folks will going to come. Someone's going to write a bear piece on SERV Robotics and say how this company is not going to make it, right? I think we'll see what happens, but just insane volume today. And then when it sold off today, $15 down to $13, a $2 swing on an $800 million market cap company. No news, no headline, just remarkable stuff. So to me, it's like a battle of people who think it's a substantially higher valuation in the coming weeks and months, and those who think it's a zero or preparing themselves for some kind of short piece to come out. I I think it trades substantially higher. It's just hard to hold here. And even when it was in the 14s earlier today, trying to find a decent risk reward strike is tough because even with the pullback and it was under 12 bucks, and you start looking at some of the later date strikes, they weren't down much today despite the big pull. I still have the January 20s, and they were up nicely. They were over $2 earlier. They're down 8% today, and that's relative speaking, right? It sounds a lot if it's common stock, but there's an option. So was that 5 cents on the bid? Not a crazy move, all things considered. So I'll continue to sit on my hands here in regards to adding some positions. I still think this trade's north of 18 in the coming days, hopefully sooner rather than later. And if it does pull, premium, I don't want the premiums to come out because I still have a couple of Octobers left too. I'll look for other strikes there, but just crazy to see the wild swings. And then you look at the chart, and the chart actually doesn't look too bad here. It chopped around in that channel. I think it was 975 up to 13. Why can't I get this here? Okay, 975 to 13 for what is 7 months. Finally broke out last week, and then maybe this the volume as it's kind of like churning into a new level. You can make the case there too. Would love to see it back over 1375. Hopefully that happens tomorrow. So that's SERV Robotics. Duolingo, right? So traded lower this morning. No news, no catalyst. I think it was down 4, 5, 6% somewhere in there, all the way down into the low 290s. Again, it's another name. I think it's at some point it's going to be a huge bounce. I think some of the move today is just in sympathy with the rest of the market. So use the opportunity to get some inexpensive further out strikes, some lottos, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. If there's a 5% rally tomorrow in Duolingo, the calls are going to be up substantial again. So to me, I think that's conservative. When it starts to break out, it's going to be 10% over the course of a day and a half or more than that. So I'll continue to hold those strikes, but that was the one ad I made today. And, one of these times, right? I'll trade it for lottos this week. Doesn't pan out this week, next week. And then one of these lottos are going to pay out multiple bags that are more than offset the lottos that I've tried to trade. Then just some other names here. In Reddit, I've been watching since early this morning for bounce calls. I had it on the watch list again. I mean, I've had Reddit on the watch list since April, but just surprising. Again, no news, no catalyst, down 7% here today. And you look at the chart, and if you look at the daily, you would look at the candle, and because of its volatility, the chart actually still doesn't look that bad, right? So I'm not going to sit here and try and catch a falling knife, but maybe tomorrow's the day. If it finds some footing, I'll look to trade this one eventually for that move to $300. It's funny. Every time it goes on that rally, when it was up at 280, I'm like, I knew it was going to go to 300 this year. I should have got some strikes further out to play for that move. But it's the hold. Now you get those further out strikes, and now you got to hold for it to trade from 280 down to 237 in a couple sessions. It just makes it so tough to hold. But I guess the reward when it does get over 300 will offset that risk. So that's Reddit, Duolingo. GameStop disappointing here, still over its 200-day moving average, flat as a pancake after yesterday's rally. At some point I'll look for some other strikes here. I was looking again, just like yesterday. I'm trying to find some strikes. I'm like, the November 40s look interesting, and similar to SERV, the premiums are not down much considering the flat day here. So the 40s for November, I thought they were 69 cents, but they're 70 by 77. That's probably the strike I get, and I'll probably just wait till tomorrow, see how the dust settles here with the market. Yeah, that's it. I keep wrapping my head around the circle. What did I call it this morning? That word, but the big circle jerk with the AI, right? It's the whole. I'm investing in you. They're investing in energy investing in AI, and it's a whole big circle. Then the government's investing, and at some point, all that investment comes to it's like who's the last one holding the cash for the investment. I guess that's the best way. Like instead of saying who has the lights on the way out at the end of a long night, right? It's like who's getting the lights on the way out. It's going to be like who has the cash at the end of this investment cycle. Like who's going to be the last one to do the investment? Who's going to be So just thinking about things that could be the next market. I wouldn't call it the black swan, but then on the flip side, I was saying it this morning too. It's like how much of this market rally from April lows is the AI theme and less about the consumer and tariffs and inflation and all that stuff, right? Because who cares about inflation when CapEx spending is going bonkers? So food for thought, things to think about. SSYS, 3D stocks running today, my old favorites. I always look at those when they're rallying and almost get teased into getting some strikes here. Tough ones. Cardlytics was up in the green this morning, all the way up to 240. Then 1 o'clock hits and boom, it's selling off here, back in the red. Hopefully that can find some footing at some point. I think that's it. 10 minutes to the close. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on you later. Rock and roll.